So guess what? The January 6th, they're now locking up reporters. So again, this was 3 years ago. And now they're getting around to conservative reporters who have been a thorn in the side of the establishment, who have been locking up peaceful protesters and charging them with felonies. So Blaze Media investigative journalist has now been taken into FBI custody. His name is Stephen Michael Baker. They took him in. Want to see? So you tell me what's interesting to me. Maybe I'm overly suspicious.
Yeah.
But they have two African American FBI guys.
It looks good for the camera.
Is right? Look, they're fighting racism.
Yeah, the FBI always makes sure to do a great
That's what
press
this is.
opportunity. In fact, they always arrest people so they can put it, so the media can film it and it can look like good PR for the FBI. Take that, you racist.
I would hate to say that that's what that is.
What do you mean that? You'd hate to say that. That's literally what that is. They have a whole team that decides whether to do that. Like, that's what that is. It's not a conspiracy. It's how they work.
So writer for the conservative media outlet surrenders to face Capitol riot charges. And there he is, standing right next to a cop, not doing nothing. There's a bunch of cops. They're all just standing there.
Oh, my God.
All the cops are just kind of standing there, letting the people. They were giving them escorts inside the Capitol.
Have the police recovered from that trauma yet?
So here he was. So he went and turned himself in.
What did he actually do? That was bad?
We're going to get to that.
I probably don't have a lot to say right now. I need to process for a little while. I'm actually still shaking a little bit. I don't like what I just went through. I don't like the deliberate humiliation that they put me through. There was no reason to do that. There was no reason to march me into a courtroom in leg chains today.
Yeah, for the camera.
In leg chains.
There was somebody there answering for a felony, and they weren't in chains.
He's, by the way, just so I don't want to jump ahead, he's being charged with misdemeanors, and they put him in leg chains when they march. So this is all intimidation. This is all to scare people about being protesters. This is all to scare the media against covering protesters. This is all this is. This is the people who are saying they're defending democracy being authoritarian fascists. That's what this is. And I have the balls to say it. I have the guts to say it. But very few other people will, outside of right-wing media, will have the guts to say this because there's a price to pay. You're going to lose your shit-lib bona fides. Just like when Jon Stewart told the truth about where the virus came from. He got kicked out of polite society. He had to go hang a medal on a Nazi, do a tongue bath to war criminals, lie about the vaccine. He had to do a lot of things to get back in. And but I'll tell the truth about it, right? Just like I'll tell the truth that the same thing they're doing to Stop Cop City protesters, they're doing to Donald Trump, they're doing to January 6th, and now they're doing to this guy. That's what this is. You want to say something?
Well, if you want to be invited to Epstein Island when it reopens, I suggest you get your attitude right.
Charges are misdemeanors. It's just it's mind-boggling, but that is unfortunately the type of selective persecution that January 6th defendants are facing. And ultimately, what we are looking at here, and probably the only reason that many of the January 6th defendants have had to go through what they've had to go through, is because of what I've talked about so many times and what I've written about so many times. It's called scary words. It doesn't matter if it's Stuart Rhodes. It doesn't matter if it's the grandmother who chanted USA, USA in the Capitol. It's the scary words that were said. If you don't say the right thing at the right time and comport to the right narrative, that's what they're going to do. Is they're going to come after us, and that's exactly what's happened. It's not. These charges have nothing to do with my behavior at the Capitol. These charges are reflective of what I said before and after my speech, what I thought about things.
What did he say?
What I joked about. That's what this was reflective of. And so that's what we're up against right now. We're not quite Canada yet. You know, we don't have Pierre Trudeau wanting to put people in prison for life for hate speech. But
close.
This is the beginnings if we don't stand up against it.
You're going to be fleeing to China for freedom before too long. That'll be hilarious.
So Stephen Baker has written articles about the January 6, 2021 riot for Blaze News. He faces 4 misdemeanor counts, including trespassing and disorderly conduct charges. 4 misdemeanor counts. They put him in leg shackles. Judge Judy doesn't even have time for a case this small.
Yeah, even when she's presiding over a fake murder, she doesn't go through all that.
We've got to get this dangerous criminal off the streets, Kurt. He's a serial reporter, and he'll do it again.
Well, I watch a lot of like ex-mafia, whatever, on YouTube, and everybody who's ever been arrested by the FBI will let you know what they do. It's a big funding thing to show that they should get more funding for their programs. They do a big play for the cameras every time they do that. What they decide is a high-profile case.
Yeah.
They cast the perfect agents.
That's right.
Yeah.
Baker was released from custody after he made his initial court appearance in Dallas on Friday. After the riot erupted, Baker entered the Capitol through a broken door and joined the mob at the barricaded doors to the House chamber.
And then what?
According to an FBI agent's affidavit. He then provided the Associated Press with a copy of that affidavit, which wasn't immediately unsealed. In another part of the Capitol, the affidavit says that this reporter, what did he do? He antagonized police officers who tried to keep him on the other side. You know how? He said, "Are you going to use that gun on us?"
That monster.
So
it's like a pipe bomb of words.
So a cop who has a gun pulled on them, he asked them, "Are you going to use that on us?" That's written up as an affidavit as antagonizing the police.
That's like saying from the river to the sea out loud. That's how dangerous that is.
That's what that is, Kurt. Are you going to use that gun? That's in the affidavit.
Look, he didn't get shot.
So what he did was what reporters are supposed to do, be eyewitnesses to an event rather than just being a stenographer to anecdotes. He entered through a broken door because all the other people used that broken door to enter.
Right.
Reporting on a group now. So anyway.
Was he wearing a mask? Maybe that was the problem.
So reporting on a group now means that you joined the group. So I guess Walter Cronkite actually went to the moon.
Yeah.
So he remained inside the building for approximately 37 minutes before police led him out of the Capitol. That's according to the FBI.
Thank God they got him.
Baker started writing for the Blaze media outlet after January 6th. He was working on as a freelance journalist on January 6th, and he later sold the videos that he made to the New York Times and HBO. So his reporting from the event got bought by other super mainstream news organizations.
Alexander Pelosi used it as some supplemental video.
And used it.
Wait, you remember that kid? I remember his name was Sullivan, but he said, "I didn't say anything like that January 6th. I remember, and then the next thing you know, he had a big sexual thing against him.
Oh, really?
And yeah, then he was dumped by that sack of shit Tim Heidecker's company immediately, and it was by coincidence right after he was saying how he didn't see all the violence.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So the lawyers said that the defense will argue that this is a case of selective prosecution and that Baker has been charged because he's a conservative writer. Those can get reversed when the politics of the moment change.
I bet they will too, and I bet they know, and they're real scared and afraid of it based on Morning Micah.
So this is on 4 misdemeanors. So you just think about what Julian Assange's going to face once he gets here. This is just a tiny appetizer of the dystopian response waiting for Julian Assange when he gets here.
Like Trump coming in, like
they're gonna put Julian Assange on the stand strapped into an electric chair.
Trump coming in. I mean, I have a fantasy that he'll do the thing that they're afraid of. I know that he won't, but I have a fantasy he'll clear the whole FBI out, all of them out. It's a beautiful dream that will never happen, but that's the dream.
So James Lee Bright, another attorney for Baker, said it was very troubling to see Baker in chains being dragged into the federal court on misdemeanors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I have violent felony offenders that are treated better than this on a daily basis. It is absolutely our intention to fight these charges until the absolute very end. The FBI's agent affidavit cites several statements that Baker made during the affidavits. It's exactly what he said in his press conference there that it was the words he said. After leaving the Capitol, he told a local television station that he was quite excited to see this going on.
Uh-oh.
That's a thought crime. Do I approve of what happened today? I approve 100%, he said. That's according to the FBI. This is inside the affidavit.
Now, I did approve, but then again, I was cool with that gay intern fucking a guy in the ass right in the middle of the Congress there. How that kid, remember?
Dude, yes. But what was he saying?
Remember these
That's
guys
right.
couldn't be in there, but it was okay. You think that's the first time that's happened? You think there's not regular ass fucking if it happened one time?
So, dude, maybe he said he was approving of a completely staged event with police waving and posing with the protesters and taking selfies with them. What's not to approve of? Maybe that's what he was saying he approved of.
Maybe because he saw there wasn't the thing that you said there was there, and it was nonviolent, and he approved of the nonviolence.
I mean, we can't get cops to be that friendly anywhere else than they were. They did everything except erect a bouncy house inside the Capitol for the fucking protesters.
Look, I'm going to be honest, Jimmy. I would have approved of them taking a full shit in Pelosi's desk. I don't know if that's a crime, but I would have personally approved of it.
They had to take it right into the Capitol to get a hug from those cops. And they did it. What's the matter? Anything? No.
Am I under arrest for that crack about the Pelosi desk?
Baker also told the station that approximately 20 to 30 people were inside then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office at the time that I got there. That's more people that live in her head. In a video upload on YouTube channel on January 6th, Baker also referred to Pelosi with a sexist expletive.
Was it jugs? Because that's what I call her sometimes.
So I think he used the B word, but he also referred to Mitch McConnell with the same word.
Yeah.
So he's calling the government bitches. But the AP reports it as he used it against Nancy Pelosi.
By the way, since when can you not say whatever the hell you want about Nancy Pelosi or anyone really in a free speech society?
I'm with you.
Legally speaking, I understand, of course, you should be canceled from employment.
Oh, sure, certainly.
And of course, you shouldn't be able to use PayPal. But legally, just because I say Nancy's a big jugged, withered beef jerky piece of shit thief, that shouldn't be a crime.
That shouldn't be a crime. Blaze, you just speaking of, for an example, Blaze News, Steve Baker released from courthouse after arrest. And here's some, the Baker who for years has been searching for the truth about January 6th and believes the U.S. government has been targeting him for it. On Friday, he was charged with 4 misdemeanors. Here they are. Knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority.
A cop was holding his hand in that picture. There was a lawful authority holding his goddamn hand in the picture.
That's unbelievable. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, and parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building.
You can literally fuck in the ass in the building, but you can't picket or demonstrate? What if I'm demonstrating how to fuck some guy in the ass?
You know, you're not supposed to be in a restricted building. You know, that's what all good reporters do. They never would go into a restricted area.
That's why Superman never had to save Lois Lane, because she'd always remain respectfully outside the bad guy's place.
When something goes
and not get the scoop.
Yeah. When something goes down, you have to stand there and wait for permission.
Uh-oh, Lois Lane's been charged with misdemeanors. I better change into Superman.
Boy, taking a notepad, very dangerous.
Asking if a cop's going to shoot you.
Asking a cop if they're going to shoot you.
Boy, those poor cops.
Blaze TV contributor Jill Savage, such a great name, Savage, noted Friday that she exited the courtroom with Baker, who was able to wear his dress clothes but had shackles on his wrists and ankles. He's expected to be released today.
Wow.
Baker learned of the charges for the first time Friday, and earlier this week told Blaze News that the powers that be wouldn't tell his attorney about the charges because they believed Baker would post them on social media.
Oh. It was really important to get the shot of him in the chain so that Rachel Maddow could flick her bean to it.
And his attorney said this is really an unusual move. Yeah, I bet. This whole thing's unusual.
I've been seeing a lot of unusual moves in the last, 3 or 4 years. Things got real unusual.
This is like the final nail. Anyway, Bright told Blaze News that he's disturbed about what's happening with his client, especially given that Baker has been in full compliance all this time. Bright has also said the federal government's 3+ years later going after people who were legitimate functioning journalists that day appears designed to have an absolute chilling effect. Yes.
You know, I got to believe there's some good people that work at the FBI. I hope you got the balls to snitch on your scumbag, corrupt organization.
They don't.
Like the common decency you'd expect from a mafioso. Snitch on the scumbags that you work with. If you're a good person, there's got to be some in there that are disturbed by this. Snitch on them. It's only going to be fixed by snitching.
Baker added that when he asked his other attorney, William Shipley, why the federal government is treating him like this, Shipley replied, "You know why. You've been poking him in the eye for 3 years."
So
Baker's arrest and charges have been getting a ton of attention, and notable individuals have been weighing in. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek Senior Promi?
Vivek Ramaswamy, Blaze Media investigative journalist Steve Baker being taken into FBI custody for his January 6th reporting. Ex-Fox News reporter Catherine Herridge being held in contempt yesterday for refusing to reveal her sources about a Chinese-American scientist investigated by the FBI but never charged.
Was she in chains?
Those who pontificate about threats to our democracy should take a hard look at the threats to freedom of the press.
They don't mean your democracy. They meant theirs.
That's right. Donald Trump Jr., I guess now they're arresting journalists to preserve democracy or something. Even he made a good point. When you're so corrupt, you can make Donald Trump Jr. be a sage.
Yeah, he's better than all of you. All of the Democrats, or that scumbag, Donald Trump Jr., so much better than you on every level.
Thomas Massey said the fourth branch is arresting another journalist today for embarrassing the regime. That's what's going on here. And the same people who are okay with Julian Assange being tortured and murdered for exposing the war crimes of the establishment, they're going to be okay with this too because it's their political enemies. And they never, ever think it's going to come back on them. They never think it's going to come back on them.
I think they're sensing it, Jimmy. I get a feeling they're starting to sense it.
I don't think so, Kurt.
They freak out about Trump and at every corner of that Colorado overturned that thing. A bunch of them, that's why they freak out on TV all the time. Because they know the things they've been doing are only going to be like, in their head, they're the winners on the right side of history. But if they don't win, then they're not the right side of history. They're the real wrong side of history. And that's a fate. That's like going to hell.
That's right.
For a secular dipshit MSNBC person, their heaven was the right side of history. Now they're going to go to hell, the wrong side of history.
So this whole idea that Trump is such a threat to democracy because he doesn't follow any of the norms. So to fight him, they throw all the norms and democracy out the window. And they go after journalists. They criminalize peaceful protesters. They try to undermine the election by kicking him off ballots, not giving people the right to vote in a democracy. Anything you can say, the P dossier, all completely made up. Russiagate, completely concocted by the FBI, who lied to the FISA court 17 times to try to get him on Russiagate. They impeached him over pausing shipment of arms to Ukraine. The only reason to vote for him is now an impeachable offense. They've thrown out every norm to try to go after their political enemy. And there's almost nobody on the left with the stones to stand up and say, write a column about it, write an article about it. Cornel West came on the show and pretended he was dumber than a C student, and he couldn't see what was happening, and he'll never say anything like this.
Hey, and fuck Jon Stewart for even ever bringing up Alexei Navalny. Like anyone gives a shit about that.
All right, John.
When there's journalists right here getting arrested, you moron.
If you want to see the end of democracy, it's been happening in front of your face ever since Trump got elected. But it isn't being done by Trump. It's being done by his political opponents under the guise of saving democracy. Hey, come see us live on tour in Los Angeles, Palm Springs, Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Berlin, Copenhagen, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, right outside Pittsburgh, El Paso, and San Antonio, Texas. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.